The question is this: where are we with inflation? What is the situation with inflation? But more importantly for you, what's going on with the prices? That is what we want to know. We want to understand what's going on with prices at the store because that is what you're concerned about, right? You want to know whether or not the current tariff situation is impacting what's going on with the stores. That is what we want to know. And my friends, let me tell you what's actually going on the ground. And what's actually going on the ground might surprise you. And I'm going to give you several reasons why I think this is happening. So again, the question is this: what is going on with the prices on the ground? Well, first of all, let's do a little bit of a history. Let's do a little bit of a history in terms of what happened several years ago in the 70s and the 80s. Why this should be a concern for you? I'm going to give you two reasons. I'm going to give you two reasons why this is a concern for you. The first one, obviously, is what it is that you're going to be paying for on a daily basis. That is what you want to know. You want to know how much you're going to be paying on a daily basis. And quite frankly, those prices are up. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. The second thing is you want to know how the price increase are going to impact you. Because my friend, my dear subscribers, it is going to impact you and it's already started to impact you. So there's two levels to this story. The first level obviously is how much is this going to cost me? And the second level is, what is the global impact? Well, it has a huge impact, right? Because if inflation starts becoming an issue, then what the Fed is going to do, and this is in July, they may actually raise prices, raise the rates. I don't think they're going to do that. We're not in that situation, obviously. We're not. The Fed is not going to raise the rates. Maybe they're not going to do anything, but they're not going to raise the rates. Okay. So what's going on actually on the ground to begin with right now with Amazon? Now, I will tell you right now that as far as Amazon is concerned, Amazon has actually started increasing prices. There was a report in the Wall Street Journal that in April, even though Amazon said it would hold the line on prices, it really hasn't done that. There was an analysis done and it found that Amazon prices, and listen to this, Amazon prices rose on 1,200 of its cheapest household goods. So the prices are going up. Competitors, Walmart, lower prices at the same time. So right now I'm going to say, but why Amazon? Well, you have to understand one thing with Amazon is Amazon owns the Washington Post. And you may be aware, you may not be aware, but the Washington Post is not the biggest friend of Donald Trump. Coincidence? We shall see. The point right now is since 5 months since President Trump first announced the sweeping tariffs, Amazon has quietly raised prices on low-cost items such as deodorant, protein shakes, pet care items, out of a 2,500 items found. So prices are going up, at least with Amazon. Let's see what else it's going up. And then I will explain to you what this is going to mean. And hopefully we don't see what happened in the 70s, but I'm not so sure about that anymore. So Amazon said that the products tracked by the journal weren't representative. Listen, no. You're looking at, it's not representative. It's a Wall Street Journal. They checked and prices are going up, right? Manufacturers of several of the products that became more expensive on Amazon say they haven't raised the price they charge retailers. So what is Amazon doing really? Well, I mean, they're passing the prices on to you, unfortunately. Things like even for domestic goods such as made in the USA Campbell soup, that also prices went up as well. And of course, anything that's made out of the US, forget it. For example, take the stackable basket from Ohio-based Dayglow, which imports from China, right? Before mid-February, Amazon sold it for $9.31. Now, Amazon is selling it for $19. Be careful next time you shop at Amazon. Of course, the thing is $19 or $9. I mean, you buy the thing, you don't know what it was. But if you know your prices, you look at them, you're going to say, wow, I'm paying twice as much, even sometimes 3 times. So the retailers have said that they've tried everything to keep the lid on prices. Target said it gives priority to other cost control measures before raising prices. Now, don't forget that in May, Trump basically told the retailer, "You're going to eat the tariffs." That's what you're going to do. You're going to eat the tariffs. Now, some of them have eaten the tariffs, but obviously Amazon is not doing it. Now, of course, we could say, well, this is just Amazon and it's not represented. My concern, and this is a point that I'm going to try to make today, is, and tomorrow I'm going to do a live on what's going on in Europe, because it would appear that they are going to do retaliatory tariff on the US. They're ready to fight the US. And now we're seeing that Amazon is, they're sticking it to the retail, to the consumer. So maybe Trump is losing his grip on the whole thing. And this is a problem, my friend. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel, by the way. This is a problem, because if Trump is not able to hold the house together, and the retailers start increasing prices, because obviously, remember last year on average, retailers were paying 3% tariffs. Now on average, it's around 10%. So somebody's paying more money here. Okay, if he's not able to hold that line, and inflation start going up and prices are starting to go up, and we also know that he's pressuring the Fed for lowering taxes, for lowering the rates. You cannot have them both at the same time. And that, my dear subscriber, is something you need to worry about, because that will impact you. How is it going to impact you? Well, frankly, you're going to have a huge amount of inflation. And then, of course, you're going to have a huge problem, because then the Fed is going to have to lower the rates. Let's go back in time just for a second. Let's go back in time in the 70s. What caused the great inflation of 1979 to 1981? What caused that inflation? Well, basically, it was caused by a combination of several things. Supply shocks because of the oil, poor monetary policy. The Fed was in the president's pocket, which is never a good thing, and global instability. Does this sound familiar? So basically, you had the oil embargo in 1973. Then in 1979, you have the Iranian Revolution. There was wars everywhere. Does this remind you of something? And then there were spikes. Unfortunately, through the 70s, the Federal Reserve kept interest rates too low. I know. And this is what Trump keeps saying. Too late, Powell. He wants the rates to be lower. Yes, as long as you need to stimulate the economy. But if you're overdoing it, then what's going to happen is you're going to make inflation worse. And that is going to impact you. That will impact my subscribers. And this is not something that I want, because I want you to be the best informed subscribers out there. I want you to understand what's happening. I want you to know that, first of all, that prices at Amazon are going up. That's a fact. You may not realize it, because obviously what Amazon is doing, they're going after the low price items. $1.50 versus $2. Who cares? It's only $2. Yeah, but it's still an increase. Second, I want you to realize that if Trump keeps pushing and pushing for lower rates, and he actually achieves lower rates, but at the same, because when is he going to achieve the lower rates? Well, technically speaking, he would like them at the next Fed meeting, which is going to be at the end of July. So at the end of July, you're going to have potentially lower rates. How do I know that? Well, first of all, Powell is under tremendous amount of pressure right now. He's not going to be able to fire the guy. That's not going to happen. But Powell is under a tremendous amount of pressure to do something, to either quit, lower rates, agree to him. He wants to lower rates. And if you know anything about Donald Trump, he's going to try until he can't try anymore. So what's going to happen in July is you potentially, I mean, it's a good thing if you want to buy a house, if you want to buy a car, rates are going to be lower. And the Fed already announced that they're going to do two rate cuts. But you need to be careful, because if you're doing it, let's say inflation, they look at my numbers and look at everything I've been talking about, and inflation goes up. Although I have to tell you that at the last reading, okay, I mean 2.7% inflation is not high. I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's not high historically from an historical basis. As of June 2025, in terms of the year over year, it was 2.7%, but it was up from 2.4% in May. So we do have higher rates, and it's the highest level since February. Now, why we're nickel and diming this inflation and these prices? Well, because this has huge, and that's why I want you to understand, this has huge implication as to what the Fed is going to do. Because on one end, you say, well, yeah, lower the rates so I get my house becomes cheaper, right? I could buy a cheaper, I buy lower mortgage, could buy a car, right? So and then you say, yeah, listen to Trump, lower those rates. I want lower rates. It's great for me. And the market will keep going up. That's true. That's bait. This is a great idea. But if inflation starts coming up, then, my friends, you're going to have a problem. Why? Well, because inflation is not good. You lose the value of what you have. And you don't want that. You don't want to lose the value of what you have. So therefore, you need to make sure that this inflation is under control. Now, it's under control right now at 2.7. It's not high. But, the reading in May was the highest level since February. And when they asked that of Trump, he said, come on, it's down. Leave us alone. This is ridiculous. You're exaggerating. So what's going to happen in July? That is the question you need to ask yourself. What's going to happen in July? Right? Is the Fed going to lower those rates? What is the next reading, unfortunately, is going to be in August. So it's going to be tough you won't have that reading, the CPI reading, to make a decision. But as far as you're concerned, in terms of stock market, the stock market is doing fantastic, right? Because you know what the stock market is thinking? We are going to have lower rates. Why? Because Trump wants it. Because he wants a new Fed chair that's going to get in there. By the way, it's going to be Bassett. Don't listen to what they're telling you. And then you're going to have lower rates. And the market is going to keep going up. Having said that, you don't want the market to go up. Right now, what's happening is the market is up, but it is overvalued, unfortunately. I mean, if you take a look at the P/E ratio, it is humongous. It is too high. And you want low rates. But you don't want to overpay for it. And that is a concern that I have. The concern that I have is you're going to have that problem. I mean, inflation in June accelerated, especially in CPI-driven categories like furniture, appliances, apparel. So core inflation is going up. Now, of course, in the meantime, the corporates, such as Amazon has been raising its prices. Amazon has raised its prices on 1,200 of its cheapest goods. So you see what they're doing, right? They're basically hitting you where you won't notice it. Anyone else doing this? Well, let's see who is raising their prices. Well, I will tell you that Nike, Walmart, Macy's, Best Buy, these retailers implementing selected surgical increase in response to the 10% baseline and reciprocal tariff. So basically what they're telling you is, I want to raise the prices, but I don't want to make too much noise. I don't want it to make a big deal out of it. I want to take it easy. I don't want Trump to come over and start pouncing on my business. Join this channel. The reason you want it, let me tell you, give me 30 seconds to explain to you why you want to join this channel. You want to join this channel because this is a Black Swan channel. This is a channel that's going to help you understand the risks in the market, to understand what's happening, and for you to make the proper decision, for you to understand what you need to do as far as your daily life. Should I buy a car? Should I not buy a car? Should I finance a new car? Should I finance my home? And more important, the stock market. Because right now, the stock market is doing very well. Why is it doing so well? Because, frankly, the economy is doing great. The consumer is spending. And we're going to have lower rates because Trump wants lower rates. So what is it not to like? It could put us into a recession. Why? Well, one thing that's going to happen, right? What's going to happen is Trump says, I want lower rates. And the Fed decides to lower those rates. Now, how do I know that? The new guy that wants to be Fed chair has announced and told everyone that even though he believes that the Fed should be independent, he's also saying rates should be low. And that is a problem, okay? That's because historically what you don't want happening is you don't want to lower the rates that much. So what's going on with the price that you're paying with the retailers? Well, right now, I will tell you, like I said, Nike, Walmart, and Macy's are raising prices. Shine and Best Buy. Walmart, they said that they raised prices in June, reversing earlier discount. So I'm afraid to say, but Walmart is going there. Nike is selectively. So basically what this tells me is that they want to raise the prices because it's costing them. Right? We're talking 30% increase in tariffs. Now this is great for Trump because now he could say that he's going to pocket $300 billion of actual money coming in. Tariffs are not in effect yet. No, they are in effect. Well, here's the deal. The only deal that was signed, right? The only deal that was signed, I think, is the UK. Everything else, we're just deciding, and you send letters out, and that's true. But in the meantime, everyone is paying. China is paying. Europe is paying. They're all paying. It's just that they don't have an agreement. So, and as usual, as I've told you before with Trump, what you want to do, and I think it's a great technique, quite frankly, he's talking here, right? But on the right side, he's collecting. So yeah, we can keep talking. Wow, you're not doing the right thing by me. You're not. But the thing is, he's collecting. And you know how much the U.S. is collecting right now? Between $200 and $300 billion. The U.S. is already collecting to the point where they have the first time a surplus. So while Europe, and Canada, Mexico, and other countries are negotiating and saying, wow, this is too much. Let me think about it. Yeah, think as long as you want. In the meantime, it's 30%. Of course, you rationalize everything by saying, you know what, I'm not going to negotiate for everyone. It's impossible. So I'm sending letters for August 1st, and you guys are going to pay me that much by August 1st. And do not retaliate. Do not retaliate. Otherwise, then I'm going to retaliate the retaliation, and then we're going to go above. Okay. So so Nike is raising. Who's actually not raising prices? Home Depot has engaged in a supply chain diversification, which is good. TJ Maxx, Marshall, and Home Goods, they're not doing it. So, but then again, TJ Maxx, Marshall, Home Goods, these are very, very, very cheaper goods. I mean, the good stuff, but all at small prices. So it's a different strategy for this guy, right? They don't charge you the same way. But Amazon, very tricky. Amazon have been raising their prices, but they're raising their prices on the low items, and they're saying, yeah, but on the larger items, we're not doing it. This is not what we're about, and we don't want to kill the consumer either. We don't want to think that things are expensive. But if you look at the There's a chart. If you look at the chart of the daily share of product that was expensive on Amazon versus Target and Walmart, that chart was yellow in January and February, and by June it's all red, which means the prices are increasing like that. Now, let's see how Trump reacts to this. Okay? Stuff we have too much of anyway. Well, I mean, Wayne is totally right on that. I mean, sometimes how much you can buy. But don't remember one thing, the US consumer is the biggest consumer in the world, right? And basically, that's what they're waiting to see. When is that consumer going to start weakening? And right now, the economy is doing pretty well and the consumer is spending. There's nothing wrong with the economy. I'm looking at my latest numbers. I mean, I'm looking also, I don't know if you know, but well, check it out yourself. But Campbell Chunky New England Clam Chowder, on January 20th, it was $1.98. Today it's $2.58. A 30% increase. Campbell's Chunky, I mean, I will need the stuff, but New England Clam Chowder is more expensive. That's a fact. Now, as far as the economy is concerned, how is the economy doing? Well, if I'm looking at my letter, the US economy is regaining its swagger. Well, there was some sign of turbulence earlier, but quite frankly, the US economy is doing fine. So, what's the big deal? What is it to worry about? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, as I want to inform you as much as possible of all the risks in the market and that would impact your daily life. So, which risk are we talking about? And we're going to have something every day. But basically, obviously, the first one is inflation. And this is kind of the topic today, right? Where basically I'm telling you that prices have started to go up. I'm not saying it. The Wall Street Journal did this study where they basically looked at 1,200, no, more than 1,200, 2,400 items. And they said, listen, prices are going up. Amazon is saying, well, yeah, but overall it's not. Okay. He's saying, I don't know, because I'm looking at it and your prices are going up more than Walmart. And it's but on small items, right? Tricky items, not big items. So you won't notice it. Okay. Well, you will notice it ultimately, but not when you're buying it because you see something $1.98. Okay, what? It's only $1.98. Who cares if it was a dollar not too long ago? But still 100% increase. Now, uh, the U.S. economy is regaining its swagger. It's doing great. The stock market is reaching new high. The Michigan consumer sentiment, which tumbled in April, has begun climbing again. So people are confident. You seem to be. Everyone seems to be confident. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Every day I come up with something new. And the economist is saying that we're doing fine. We have no issue. So that's the first thing we're going to be looking in this channel. We're going to look at inflation to make sure we're under control. And I mean, I don't know what the CPI is going to look like in July, but we might have a bad news, I would say, because there's no way this thing is going to stay the way it is. It's time to permeate through. They're afraid of Trump, obviously, that he's going to come in and say, what the heck are you doing? You're raising prices, you're not helping me, like he did with Amazon. Because Amazon, I don't know if you remember, but in April, what Amazon was doing is say, oh, you're going to raise prices? Well, this is the price, and this is the tax for the tariffs. I mean, that's crude. And then Trump called Bezos and said, what are you doing? I mean, really? You're going to put a line that says, because of the tariffs, that's how much you're charging us? You're not helping. And the guy he decided to do away with it. So he didn't do it. So that was good. So the first thing you need to worry about is inflation. Right now under control, but be careful about July and be careful what the Fed is going to do. You may not want what you think you want. Number two, what's going on with Israel and Iran? That's the second thing you need to worry about. Again, yes, today actually, Israel attacked Yemen. I'm sure there's some good reason. Last week they were attacking Syria. Okay, and before that it was Iran. And they're not attacking Iran right now, but obviously Israel is not stopping. Now, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Like I tell you, the story that you need to realize is Netanyahu wants to keep fighting because the more he fights, the more longer he stays in power. He stays prime minister because don't forget, just like Trump, they want to put him in jail. I don't know about the case. Who knows? But the point is that it's working because obviously he's staying out of jail or he's staying out of a trial because, frankly, he's saving the country, right? Number three that you need to worry about, and that's going to be a one that's moving up, is a Chinese situation. The Chinese situation, and I will do a video this week, a live this week. Basically, think of it this way. Even though we're importing more and more rare minerals from them, it's not as much. But China needs to sell its stuff to the US. Why? Because they have a huge amount of deflation over there. Not inflation, deflation. They have so much stuff, they don't know what to do with it. And they need to sell it to someone. And if they can't sell it to the US and they can't sell it to Europe because it's becoming too cheap, what do you think they're going to do? Think about this for a second. You got all these factories producing stuff that nobody wants. You're going to have to blame someone because these people in China are going to be out of work, and then they're going to get into Taiwan. I am very concerned about Taiwan. Taiwan is where they make all of the semiconductors. Once they get in there, then the U.S. has to do something. And what is the U.S. going to do, right? What is the U.S. going to do? The U.S. has about 7 days worth of missiles, and that's what Trump's, is asking for $150 billion of stuff, of funding for, for defense. They've been sending weapons to Ukraine, sending weapons to Israel, right? This is expensive. And the U.S. does not have the wherewithal to have a long war. I mean, just be careful. The same way, the MAGA, the same way the U.S. does not have enough weapon to fight a long period of time. It is what it is. Now, I even mentioned MAGA. That is a good point. I will tell you why. Because right now, MAGA is after Trump. MAGA is after Trump because of the Epstein story. MAGA is after Trump because of what he tried to do with Iran, right? Didn't want to get into the war, but we're getting close. And also the fact that now Trump is supplying weapons to Ukraine, although Trump is saying, no, I'm not supplying weapons, I'm selling the weapons. Well, yeah, but you're going to have to help them how to use it. So U.S. soldiers are going to be involved in this situation. MAGA does not like the way it's going. And maybe, just maybe, because if I know it, I am sure Amazon knows it, right? And the European knows it. Maybe they're feeling that Trump is weakening and they're taking advantage of that. How are they taking advantage of that? Well, they're basically raising their prices. And very soon, and I'm going to do a video on that also this week, Europe is actually getting ready for a fight. What does that mean? They're paying 30%. Right now, they're paying 30%. They're not going to keep paying 30% forever. So they're going to fight back. They're going to go back something and they're going to say, you know what? I don't agree with this. I'm going to charge you back 30%. And what is he going to do? I'm going to charge 100%? Now, you have to understand that $900 billion is coming from Mexico and $900 billion is coming from Europe. These are two biggest, largest trading partner. Now, the U.S. economy is doing great, but if you're going to kill your consumer of your goods in Europe by overcharging them, then you're going to have a recession. You're going to definitely put Europe in recession. But if nobody is buying your stuff, then you're going to be in trouble, right? I mean, Europe consumes a lot of our product, 900 billion. That's a lot of money. Okay, so that's the fourth risk that I'm concerned about. The fifth risk that you need to worry about, although I don't think it's such a big issue, is the $37 trillion worth of debt. Why is it that I'm not concerned about $37 trillion? Because the dollar is a reserve currency. So if the dollar is a reserve currency, all you need to do is print more dollars. You're going to debase a currency. That is a fact. But But I want you to be informed. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget also, because it's not about risk, also making money. Take a look at my Patreon channel. Take a look at my Patreon channel. I come in every day and I explain to you what's going on in the market, but more importantly for you, I am telling you where the opportunities are in the stock market. And right now, my friends, the opportunities are with the small caps. The small caps is where the action is. Why? First of all, nobody wants them. Right? Small caps are basically companies, corporations with less than $2 billion worth of market capitalization. Think of it this way. Nvidia is worth $4 trillion. I'm looking at something less than $2 billion. And frankly, take a look at my Patreon, it's free. You will see that it's all green right now. Making money on all of the stocks that I picked. And the way I pick stocks is I look for stocks that have growth, that are cheap, that are small, and have no debt. And most importantly, I understand what they do, which is that's something that I agree with Warren Buffett. I agree with the fact that we need to know what it is that we are making. You need to know what you're buying, right? When you buy a car, you need to drive. When you buy an investment, you need to know what it is. Okay. So these are the seven: the Iran, the China situation, the tariffs, the dollar. The dollar is going to be a problem at some point, and the economy, which right now is doing great. One thing we didn't mention, of course, and we should mention because Trump mentions it every day, is Powell. Right? Trump wants Powell out. Who cares? A bunch of rich people just fighting it out. Well, no, it's going to impact you. It's going to impact you because if you don't have the amount of money that you need, that's going to be a problem because he wants Powell out. Economy, 2, the small cap focus, 3, the dollar. The dollar is always a problem. 5, Trump versus Powell. 6, Iran versus Israel. 7, China versus the US. And 8, inflation watch. You need to watch everything. You need to watch everything and you need to understand everything. Why? Because if you don't, then you're going to lose out on many. Channel is about. This channel is about understanding what's going on in the economy. This channel is about really, measuring the risk of everything. Because if you don't understand risk, then you don't know what job to get, you don't know what stock to buy, and what to do with your money, right? And that's very important. Of course, you say, well, I could listen to Bloomberg and you could listen to lots of different things, right? Don't do that. Don't do that because what they're telling you, unfortunately, when you listen to, well, look at the Washington Post, which is owned by Amazon. Take a look at what's happening with Bloomberg. Bloomberg will only tell you what their sponsors, right, of the products. They got to be very careful. They're not listening to you. They're listening to the sponsors, pharmaceutical company, finance company, right? So they're providing you information which might not be beneficial for you. You need to know what's happening. You need to know where the risk is. And if you don't know where the risk is, how are you going to invest anything? How are you going to do anything? Right? So right now, the topic is what's going on with Amazon. Amazon, and this is as per the Wall Street Journal, and please double check it yourself, and I'm sure you're going to find out, has been raising prices. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and take a look at my Patreon channel as well. So free, you should like it, okay? So Amazon is basically raising its prices. They're saying we're raising prices on the lowest items. I'm not so sure about that. I know they're lowering on their lowest prices, but that's because so that you don't notice it. But they're raising it a lot, right? What did I tell you before? The chunky thing there, that's costing a lot of money now. If you want to know the cost of a It went up. The cost of the chunky, what is it? The Campbell soup thing. I mean, check it yourself. But I believe, I mean, according to Wall Street Journal, it went up 30%. That's a lot. That's a tremendous amount of increase. Okay. But they say they're doing it for the lower price item. Okay, fine. Amazon is not doing it this way. I mean, Walmart is more judiciously doing it. Walmart is not doing it the same way, but they're still doing it. Nike is also doing it, Macy's, Shine, but they're more. Walmart, for example, they confirmed that they're raising their prices in June, reversing earlier discount as tariff costs hit the margins. I mean, it's starting to get expensive. Nike flagged as raising prices, though selectively. Who else? You know who's not changing prices? Home Depot. Home Depot is engaged in supply chain diversification. TJ Maxx is not raising prices, so it's safe to shop there. But it's going up. But let's not make a big deal out of it, right? We shouldn't make a big deal out of it because, frankly, um, inflation is only 2.7%. That is not high. And this is where you have to be careful, right? You need to be careful who you're talking to because what's happening is depending on people that are for Trump, against Trump, what happens is they basically tell you, oh, inflation, oh my God. No, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's only 2.7%. I wouldn't be too concerned about it. The thing is, you want to make sure that it doesn't keep on going. Now, of course, the CPI itself reflects the average price of changes across a broad basket of goods. You know, like even if certain categories like Christmas ornaments, steel baskets, or apparel raised by 20 to 100%, then represent a small portion of the index. So, because I'm telling you the Campbell soup is going up a lot, and this other, there was another item that went up like 90% because they made from China. But this stuff doesn't make its way to the CPI, so the CPI is still low. So when I say 2.7%, you may say, what do you mean 2.7%? Everything is costing more money. Yeah, but that's what the Fed is looking at. The Fed is looking at the CPI number to make a decision. And right now, the CPI was 2.4% in May, it's 2.47, it's 2.7 in June. So it did go up. Not a lot, but it did go up. That's why I could understand when Trump says, come on, guys, I mean, it's still low. So lower the rates. We're wasting time here. And that's why he wants to fire Powell. He wants to let go of Powell because he thinks that the guy is not going to lower the rates. And frankly, I believe that Powell is doing it because he knows Trump doesn't like him. By the way, Powell did lower the rates at the time when Kamala Harris was going to become president. Interestingly enough, coincidental. You tell me politics doesn't have a role to play in that? I don't think so. I think that politics has a lot to do with it, okay? So many businesses initially front-loaded inventory, ate some of the costs, used shrinkflation, which dampens the CPI impact. But now I think the tariff effects may be masked by decline elsewhere. There was a timing, but the bottom line is the CPI hasn't surged yet because the impacted goods are a small share of the basket. But now, as we see what's happening with Amazon, I am concerned that this could be happening, that inflation is making its way through. But more importantly, the reason it's also making it through because they are doing it. They're not afraid of Trump anymore. Why? Because Trump is under attack. He's under attack by the MAGA people. You have to understand that when Trump wanted to get involved with the Iran-Israel war and he decided to bomb those two plants, that was a big deal. And the MAGA people are very powerful. How are they powerful? Well, basically, they give Trump the ability to pressure, the same way he pressured all of these senators to vote the big, beautiful bill, to go along with what he wants to do. because he says, listen, you don't go with me, I call MAGA, and you're not getting votes, and you're out. That's a very powerful argument. In fact, it is so powerful that when the the big beautiful bill was being passed, none of the senators and none of the Republicans actually read the bill. I will tell you that bill was about 640 pages, and I don't believe that many people actually read the bill. In fact, they said it. What did I tell you that? I think I told that a while back, but I think you should know that they didn't read the bill. Why didn't read the bill? Because there was no point of reading it. You have to pass it. And it literally passed along party lines. But now, unfortunately, and the latest thing that Trump did, don't forget to join the channel, by the way, the latest thing that Trump did is that he actually decided to give weapons to Ukraine. Of course, he's saying, I'm not giving the weapon, I am selling the weapons. And this is what this channel is about, right? I want to explain to you, what's driving all these people. What is driving Trump, right? And what makes his strength is that he doesn't need the money. He wants to create a legacy. So in front of him, he's got a bunch of political people. I'm talking even, in Mexico, in Canada, right? All these people basically are, they want a job after they're done to be president. They want to make a connection. Trump doesn't care about that. So that's why most of the, like, for example, take the Canadian Prime Minister. When he came in, he said, you know what? I am going to show Trump what I'm all about. I'm going to kick his butt. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And now recently, the Prime Minister basically said, I don't think that, and I think I did a video on that not too long ago about Canada. He basically said, you know what? I'm afraid Canada Carney talked tough on Trump, and now some say he's backing down. That's a BBC News article, July 11th. Why is he backing down? Because he wants a job after this. Trump, that's it. He's 79 years old. He's a billionaire. He doesn't need it. So he could say whatever you want, do whatever you want. Carney once promised, Carney is the Prime Minister of Canada, he promised strong retaliation, vowing to defend Canada with respect, but a recent shift has been observed and Canada is reportedly stepping back from aggressive tactics. So they're just going to pay the 30%. Now, of course, it's not a big cost for Canada because at the end of the day, they do not have, most of their goods are paid by part of the agreement with Canada and the U.S. Okay, my friend, I will see you tomorrow.